As the genre of analog horror grows, people are rushing to make their own series. But with this growth, ideas run scarce and anything is on the table to have a series made about it. I just want to say, I'm not doing this video to make fun, and I think that would be kinda rude considering most of the people making these series I assume are kids trying their hand at making horror. However, I do find it inherently funny how people will take properties that are unserious in their nature to try and make a spooky analog horror out of it. I want to thank this video's sponsor, Aura. Analog horror can be scary, but it's not real, so it's easy to take solace in that. What is very real and even more horrifying is the chance that your personal information is floating around the internet for any bad actor to do anything unsavory with. With data breaches and spam calls on the rise, your personal info is only more at risk of being compromised. This doesn't have to be the case though, thanks to Aura. Aura is a service which shows its users which data brokers are selling its information and automatically submits opt-out requests for you. I personally use it and have found that since I started, the amount of spam I get has been reduced, and make sure that my personal info is off the internet. Privacy and peace is important to me, and it probably is for you too, which is why my link, aura.com/woodcat, is in the description where you can start your 2-week free trial today. To those unaware, SuperMarioLogan, SML for short, is a channel that centers around skits that a few guys do using puppets. They used to use plushies of Nintendo characters before they were hit with a cease and desist letter from Nintendo, but that's besides the point. Fans seem to have headcanoned a lost episode of SML called I'm Sorry, Chef PP. Chef PP is characterized as being the chef of the main characters, who normally doesn't stand for any mischievous acts from the family he works for. The title is very foreboding, and the episode is described in an analog horror format explaining the lost episode. No audio could be recovered, but subtitles are available nonetheless. The video proceeds to use the format to play out an SML video that starts out with everyone's favorite, Jeffy and Junior. As a normal SML video would start, the kids are wondering what they want to do that day. Then Jeffy suggests they play football in the kitchen, where Chef PP is. Could this be where the incident they are so sorry for occurs? They go to the kitchen, and after some small talk about where they even got the football from, Junior finally tells Jeffy to hit it as hard as he can. Odd since footballs aren't known for being hit, but rather being kicked, or mostly just thrown and carried. Jeffy, knowing this about footballs, ignores Junior's request to hit it and kicks it as hard as he can. The ball was said to have traveled at such a high speed, and at such an angle that it made a piece of the ceiling come off and come crashing down onto the characters. The piece of the ceiling in question falls onto Chef PP's head, which causes blunt force trauma and for his face to scatter all over the table. It is thought that Jeffy ran away after this took place. We see a censored picture of Chef PP after the incident, with the caption, "Is he pretty now?" It's hard to answer the question if Chef PP is pretty now since the black bar is getting in the way of the only part of him that was changed, but if I had to guess, his face being splattered all over the table doesn't do much for his appearance. Music begins to play as the question repeats itself, and the title of the video, I'm Sorry Chef PP, appears on screen as the music stutters. A knife appears on screen, and before we even get to ask the significance, we get to see the caption. I didn't like my new face that the young boy gave me. The story now being told from the perspective of Chef PP, who seems to have taken over the tape. Chef PP follows up, so I made him not like it either. An image of Chef PP without the censor, and a knife flashes on screen for a frame. After a few seconds of black, the image comes back out with Junior, his limbs getting cut off each time the music stutters. Where are my eyes? I can't see. Where did my arms go? I can't grab anything. I want to find my legs, but I can't go anywhere without them. These quotes are from Junior's perspective after he gets mutilated by Chef PP for what he's done. 2 images flash of what the characters look like now. Chef PP being prettier Chef PP, and Junior being heartless and disfigured. Chef PP asks Junior if he wants to say anything, to which Junior says, "I'm sorry, Chef PP." The, the, the video ends with a shot of the SML house at night. I don't even know what to say about this one. It's a pretty standard analog horror in its conventions. The only difference here, though, is that it's centered around something as unserious as SML, which is typically a pretty goofy channel. I'd maybe find this scary if I were a kid who watched SML, and I know this because there are threads on Reddit about if the video is real. The reason that this video seems plausible to them is probably because SML have done some pretty daring things in the past, like a video titled The Secret Door, which has some gore effects that are super well done, and I don't think I can even show them for that reason. The tale of this lost episode, however, goes back further than this analog horror piece. This is, however, the only example that puts it into the format, and thus why I use this one. It would be hard to have not heard of CaseOh at this point, since he's such a massive streamer at this point. His main bit is normally chat making jokes at the expense of his weight. For instance, there are many clips of him that exist of him jumping and then getting comments that people died due to earthquakes.
You see me jump, chat? Here we go. You ready? 50 found dead in Alaska. Okay, buddy, let's calm down just a little bit.
The joke about him jumping and causing earthquakes that kill people actually is not the subject of the analog horror I will be talking about. It'll rather be his size as a whole that gets poked at in this piece. The video starts with CaseOh and Wendy being introduced as victims, but victims of what has yet to be answered. After this introduction, CaseOh gives us a message that some would consider to be horrifying.
Fine, I'll drop the butt-naked pictures on Twitter later. Fine.
What did CaseOh mean by this?
Surely he should know that Twitter has been renamed to X.
Unless this takes place before that godforsaken rebranding. This message, for reasons undisclosed, causes Wendy to leave the call, and for Salad to join. The introduction of Salad sends CaseOh into a fit of agony, and the call leaves off on that note. Arkansas police were called about a disturbance happening in a neighborhood. They reported they heard someone screaming throughout the neighborhood streets. When police arrived at the scene, they found CaseOh driving away on a mobility scooter. He was caught and detained and put in a hospital. When CaseOh arrived at the hospital, he passed out due to a high intake of oxalate. Now to interject some analysis into this segment, it seems that after CaseOh's freakout as a result of the salad, it only got worse. I take the leaving of the calls to represent eating rather than actually being on a Discord call with some fast food, which would make Wendy leaving the call make more sense, since obviously CaseOh was going to eat the Wendy's. This also explains why Salad never leaves the call. It seems the salad wasn't eaten in whole, but rather possessed CaseOh in some way. I say this because of CaseOh's high intake of oxalate. Oxalate is a compound found in vegetables, fruits, and nuts. The foods that have the highest oxalate count being green vegetables, the ones found in salads. It says he has a high intake of oxalate, but for CaseOh that could be as much as a leaf falling into his mouth. He ate it to some degree, and that's how it took over him. We then get to find out what happened to CaseOh after this incident. Day 1. CaseOh has not woken up yet. His activity is stationary. Day 2. CaseOh has woken up. He is very dazed, but remains active. Activity, low movement. Day 3. CaseOh has woken up a lot more and has been able to go to the bathroom on his own, but still needs to be at the hospital for at least 2 more days. Activity moderate. Things seem to be looking up for CaseOh after the incident. He may have been infected by the evil salad, but soon he'll... Day 4. Doctors reported a high level of lard in CaseOh's room. Doctors have applied a special diet for CaseOh. Activity moderate. Day 5. After doing a daily checkup, doctors found green spots on CaseOh's back and have increased the diet length for CaseOh. Activity concerning. I would agree that the activity is concerning. Clearly, this is more than a high intake of a compound in salad. Day 6. CaseOh has been showing signs of norovirus, salmonella, Clostridium perfringens, and Staph aureus. CaseOh has been contaminated. Activity dangerous. Day 7. CaseOh has been diagnosed with E. coli 0157 and had a major episode with the infection. CaseOh's body changed the color green. Doctors believe the diet may have caused an adaptive chain reaction in CaseOh's body over not being used to the type of food. Activity deadly. Norovirus, Salmonella, Clostridium perfringens, and S. aureus, and E. coli 0157 are food-borne infectants. What is more is that they can all be found in raw vegetables, the ingredients to a salad. It's an unfortunate super combo of problems that if one is unlucky enough, can find themselves having without proper food precautions being taken. Day 8. CaseOh has lost all identification of his past self. CaseOh has trouble breathing, and doctors are too scared to go near CaseOh. Activity life-threatening. Day 9. CaseOh died on the 9th day. There has not yet been an autopsy. There is a video of CaseOh on the 8th day before he died. And before I show you CaseOh's last video, this goes to show the importance of washing your vegetables before you eat them, or else you could wind up like old CaseOh here. Also important to not let this discourage you from eating vegetables, or else you could wind up like old CaseOh here. Without further ado, here are some of his final moments. Seems as if CaseOh is demented to the point of turning into some sort of Trollge-like monster and trying to beat the camera. There must have been a supernatural presence in the salad, because green spots I could see happening under the infection of such diseases described. I, however, cannot think of any way these diseases can turn someone into Trollge, and with blood coming out of their eyes at that. It's hard to tell if there's a deeper meaning to this video. I mean, I almost certainly know that there's not. I mean, this is an analog horror take on a far and wide popular streamer. I still find it fun to take it as a PSA to wash your food before you eat it. A question that goes unanswered is, why was CaseOh promising to post naked pictures to Twitter, and yet we never see them? Maybe it was a moment on stream where he was ribbing with chat while eating when the incident occurred? It's not known for sure and adds such an unnerving ambiguity to this video. That's all I can muster for this video, cause CaseOh is such a gigantic figure in this lore and I need to move on to the next piece. The annoying orange is something which, if you are old enough to be watching my videos, requires no introduction. The annoying orange is a pretty silly series, but it seems that even that channel has been subject to a few analog horror videos. The one I will be talking about is titled Hey Apple. This seems to be a take on the first ever annoying orange video, where the orange harasses an apple until the apple meets an unruly fate by a knife. The video starts as the pilot of the YouTube channel normally does, but only for this video, the quality is downgraded, and a low-pass filter has been applied to the audio. Something rather uncanny happens around 10 seconds in.
Hey, Apple. What is it? Hey, Apple. Hey, Apple. What? Hey, Apple. Why? Hey, Apple. Why? Hey, Apple. Why? Can you do this? Why?
The audio starts to duplicate, the fruit's annoyance growing even more. This is all around interrupted by the apple taking a sigh and panting with anger. All of the orange's antics go quiet. All we can hear is the panting of the tormented apple. After seconds of a stare down between the two, annoying orange delivers his famous line, "Hey Apple," to which the apple, unamused, just says, "What?" The apple does not even know the horrors it is about to experience. Orange turns into a creepy, demonic orange, with the classic analog horror look that we all know and love. Audio of what sounds like swiping of a knife plays, as we have to look at this abomination, and the feed cuts to red, alongside a standby hum. Feed comes back with the picture of an apple. we learn that the apple has gone missing. The demented orange comes right next to the apple's photo and takes over the broadcast, all while laughing. The apple's torment is coming to a start. His eyes are hollowed out, and his mouth is agape at what he's experiencing. The orange continues to laugh as he tortures the apple. We then get the shot of blood pouring down the screen, as Apple begins to rot, all while he's screaming. The feed cuts out, and we see a factory video of what seems to be the production of apple juice. One of the bottles has a pair of eyes which can be seen, which shows that this is part of the broadcast, and not just something that was cut to for a little taste of normalcy to up the creep factor. The video ends after the apple juice with eyes leaves the screen. This video doesn't have that much to say about it. The annoying orange seems to have taken an even more evil approach to having fun than I remember. Instead of torturing others with his mere presence, he subjects to horrors beyond the human imagination. As retribution for not giving in to the orange's jokes, the orange makes the apple into juice, only after rotting him alive. I sure wouldn't want to be the one drinking that juice after seeing one of the apples in it was rotten. My analysis or lack thereof aside, this is another pretty standard analog horror. The fruit is an agent of Satan, so it makes sense that he would stoop to such low levels to get his kicks. To be entirely honest, I feel like the apple whenever I have to watch an annoying orange video. Maybe this video is a commentary on the experiences of those who have had the displeasure of watching the annoying orange, but at this point I could just be looking too deep into a one-off analog horror video that's barely even a minute long. Again, I wanted to do a video where I just make fun of a bunch of analog horror videos that I find unserious in nature, but then I had the feeling that that would be kinda mean. I'm no stranger to offering my critique on content, but these videos were pretty obviously made by kids who are just getting into the genre or getting into making horror content at all. The videos are pretty plainly not scary, to the point where I at least think the CaseOh video is a parody of analog horror, or at least just a shitpost that CaseOh was meant to find funny. The other two I find seem to have actual intent to scare the viewer, but it's hard to do that when you're using topics like SuperMarioLogan and the annoying orange. Using such properties to make a horror project, in my own opinion, makes the result funny rather than scary. Though, to be honest, with the right cues of audio and visuals, even using something that is meant to be in a horror property can also come off as funny. I mean, Baldi's Basics in Education and Learning is a game that is meant to scare the player, arguably, but this analog horror that someone made of it could really only make me laugh. I was actually considering talking about that one, but that one's a little too short and has way too little content to actually talk about other than Baldi dies. Anyways, my point is that things like this are going to happen with any niche that is saturated enough. People are going to want to insert something they like, even if it doesn't fit at all. I don't think this should be met with vitriol, but it should just be looked at as something that shows someone is out there trying their hardest. I actually don't even think that this is a sign of the genre dying. If anything, I think this is a sign that the genre is reaching larger audiences. And as we know, 90% of everything is shit, so I don't think that we should just go ahead and take this as a sign that the genre itself is dying, but rather just that some people are rather unsuccessfully trying to make their own, and just leave it at that. I have been John X Woodcat, and that's about it. I'll see you in the next one.